Right, we're kicking off a new week it's still the international break. That long, drawn-out spell where domestic football takes a back seat and you're left scraping the barrel for any kind of Celtic-related action. But fear not, the Hoops are back in just under a week, with a trip to Dens Park on the cards. And while we'll build up to that game later in the week, today's all about getting up to speed with what's been happening over the weekend. Some of it international, some of it close to home, and some of it, well, pure madness. So let's start with Scotland. They managed to pull off a tidy win over Belarus, and while the performance might not have blown anyone away, it put Steve Clarke's side in a solid position heading into the final two fixtures of the World Cup qualification campaign. 10 points from a possible 12, that's no small feat, and at worst, the lads have secured a playoff spot. Now, if they can grind out a draw against Greece and somehow pull off a win over Denmark at home, there's a real shot at qualifying directly. Is it likely? Maybe not. Based on the performances so far, there's still a lot of work to be done. But results are results, and right now Scotland are still well in the mix. Anthony Ralston got the start at right back, and let's be honest, it was a bit of a mixed bag. He looked exposed at times defensively, but going forward, there were flashes, especially linking up with young Ben Gannon, who looks like he's got something about him. A proper talent. The kind of player you'd have loved to see coming through at Celtic, terrorizing defenders on the right wing. But Ralston held his own. Kieran Tierney came on for the final 20 minutes and looked sharp again. He's had a strong break and looks like he's ready to hit the ground running, which could be massive as we head into a busy spell. Now, speaking of Celtic players away on international duty, there's plenty more to talk about. Kasper Schmeichel played both matches for Denmark. First, they absolutely demolished Belarus, 6-0. Then they followed that up with a solid 3-1 win over Greece. Schmeichel captained the side in the second game, stepping in for Højbjerg, who was suspended. Now, there's a bit of chat over why Højbjerg's even captain ahead of someone like Schmeichel, given the guy's been around forever and seen it all. But still, a proud moment for Kasper, even if he did pick up a yellow card during the Greece game. Bit of a handbag situation when the Greeks tried to speed things up after scoring a consolation. Nothing major, just one of those daft moments you sometimes get in international football. Overall, it was a decent couple of games for Schmeichel. The real question now is whether he can carry that form back into Celtic. Because let's be honest, he's not been at his best recently. A few shaky performances, a few flutters when the ball's at his feet. We've all seen it. So maybe this international break is exactly what he needed to reset. Meanwhile, over in Finland, young Tobi Aluwayemi, or Sinisalo if you're going by his squad name, managed to get some minutes. He started in the win over Lithuania and looked a bit nervy, especially with the goal they conceded. Got a hand to it, but just didn't do enough to keep it out. It's these small moments that stick with a keeper. He didn't play the next match, a 4-0 drubbing at the hands of the Netherlands. Tough break for the lad, but it's all part of the learning curve. Still think there's a decent keeper in there, but he's not quite ready to be pushing for the #1 shirt at Celtic just yet. Back to the UK and over to Ireland. Liam Scales was ruled out of their match against Portugal due to a family bereavement. The initial hope was that he'd return for the next game against Armenia, but that's now been ruled out by the Irish FA. At the end of the day, football takes a back seat in moments like that. All we can do is hope Liam's okay and gets the support he needs from the club and his teammates. Across the Atlantic, Cameron Carter-Vickers was an unused sub for the USA in their draw against Ecuador. They're set to play Australia next, and we'll see if CCV gets a run out in that one. Doesn't look like he's a key part of the manager's plans at the moment, which is a bit surprising considering his form last season. But again, maybe a blessing in disguise. Less travel, less fatigue, and hopefully fresher legs when he returns to Glasgow. Sweden's Benjamin Negren was also left watching from the sidelines as his country continues to struggle, just 1 point from their last 3 games. They lost 2-0 at home to Switzerland, and next up they've got Kosovo. Negren did give an interview with Swedish press, but after digging through the translation, there wasn't much substance. Basically just said he's disappointed not to be playing. Positive attitude, though, and maybe it's not the worst thing from a Celtic perspective that he's being kept out of the firing line. There were also a couple of worrying injury updates. Sebastian Tani missed Tunisia's 6-0 win over São Tomé and Príncipe with a thigh injury. Their media is reporting it's nothing serious, and the plan is for him to feature in the second half of their next match against Namibia. We'll be keeping a close eye on that, because Tanny has been a real bright spark for Celtic this season. If he ends up missing even one game, it could really take the sting out of our attack. Same story with Daisen Maeda. He was in the squad for Japan's draw against Paraguay, but didn't play, and now he's pulled out of their match against Brazil due to tightness in his left leg or his foot, depending on which report you believe. Either way, it's never great to hear about niggles like that, especially for a player who's so important when he's fully fit. He's not been at his best lately, fair enough, but we all know what he brings when he's firing. On a brighter note, Marcelo Serra played the full match and wore the captain's armband for Uruguay in their friendly win over the Dominican Republic. Not a full-strength side, mind you. Most of their big hitters weren't involved, but still, captaining your national team is no small thing. Bielsa clearly rates him, and that kind of recognition could give him a real boost heading back into club duties. They've got another game against Uzbekistan coming up, so we'll see if he keeps his place. And then there's Kobe Donovan. The young Scot was in action for the under-21s and helped them to an outrageous 12-0 win over Gibraltar. He played the first half, set up 2 goals, and looked really lively bombing down that right side. Not something we've seen loads of at Celtic yet, but maybe that's a sign of things to come. Bonus point, the game was played at Dens Park, the same venue Celtic head to this weekend. Familiar territory, good memories, and maybe that gives him a wee edge if he's in the mix to start. So that's where we're at so far during the break. A real mixed bag. Some players shining, some just picking up dust on the bench, and others nursing injuries that could give the gaffer a bit of a headache. But the countdown is on. 6 days until Celtic are back in action, and every update counts as we get closer to that trip to Dundee. Let's keep the ball rolling then, because beyond the international duty drama, there's been plenty happening closer to home that deserves attention. The break might have paused league action, but that doesn't mean everything stopped. The Celtic women's team were in action and absolutely steamrolled Motherwell with a dominant 7-1 win. That's the kind of scoreline that turns heads. Doubles from Morgan Cross and Tash Flint set the tone, and it was one of those performances that remind everyone just how strong this squad can be when things click. There's confidence running through that team now, and it's beginning to feel like they're finally starting to find their rhythm this season. But on the other side of the coin, it was a rough one for the Celtic B team. They were in Challenge Cup action against East Fife and ended up on the wrong end of a 5-3 scoreline. And to be completely honest, even that flatters us a bit. East Fife were all over them from the start and probably should have had 7 or 8 goals. The defense looked fragile, the midfield struggled to control any kind of tempo, and while there were brief moments going forward, including an early goal from Ben Summers and a second time taking the lead, they just didn't have the structure or the presence to cope with the opposition's intensity. What made the game even more interesting, or maybe more disappointing, was that it featured the debut of Jamal Simpson-Pusey in a proper competitive setting. After all the buzz that came with his signing, a lad who played in the Champions League for Manchester City, you'd expect him to stand out, even in a B team game. But the truth is, he looked off the pace, caught out in the air, sloppy with positioning, and generally looked like a player who hasn't played much football in recent months. Which, to be fair, is probably true. There were rumors he arrived with a knock, and this was his first proper run out in a while. Still, when you're coming from a club like City, there's an expectation. And when you're up against a side like East Fife, with all due respect, you should be dominating those battles. He looked tentative, like he wasn't fully confident yet. Not what you'd hope to see, but maybe understandable given the context. Callum Osman also featured and, again, didn't really make the impact you'd expect. Hit the post at one stage, but that was about it. The bigger picture here is that the B team has been completely reshaped this season. A lot of the more experienced youngsters have been loaned out, and what's left is a group of very raw players, some of whom are still getting to grips with this level. The likes of Simpson-Pusey and Osman are only able to feature in certain cup games due to the rules, so it's hard to find rhythm in these appearances. But that being said, you'd want more from lads who are supposed to be knocking on the door of the first team. There was also a defeat in the Wim Jansen Cup, a Legends match in Rotterdam where Celtic went down 2-1 to Feyenoord. Now, obviously this was more of a friendly run-out than anything truly competitive, but even still, it had its drama. Charlie Mulgrew got on the scoresheet for the Hoops, but the biggest moment was when Scott Brown was sent off. You heard right, red card in a charity match. Only Bruni, right? The challenge itself was vintage Bruni, sliding in, full commitment, won the ball, but probably took a bit of the man too. The referee didn't hesitate, pointed to the spot, and gave the penalty, much to the disbelief of everyone involved. Barry Robson on the touchline looked like he was ready to burst, and Bruni? Well, he didn't take it lightly either. He got his marching orders, and in a charity game, that's almost comical. The penalty was saved anyway, so it didn't cost us in terms of the scoreline, but it definitely stole the headlines. Away from the pitch, a couple of interviews caught the eye over the weekend. Alistair Johnston was spotted enjoying a bit of downtime in Erin, walking the dog, swinging the golf clubs, recharging the batteries. But more importantly, he's expected to be back in full training this week. With the trip to Dens Park looming, that could be massive. We've missed his presence on that right flank, the physicality, the drive, the leadership, and just the simple consistency he brings. Getting him back could be a huge boost heading into the next run of fixtures. Then there was the Celtic TV interview with Nicholas Kuhn. Now this was interesting for a few reasons. First off, it was done entirely in French, which raised a few eyebrows because his first interview when he arrived at Celtic was in perfect English. So why the switch? Nobody really knows. Maybe he just felt more comfortable this time speaking in his native tongue. But the content was what mattered. Kuhn admitted that settling in has been tough. Living out of a hotel, adjusting to a new country, trying to find form in a side that hasn't exactly been flying. It's not been straightforward for him. He spoke about having his family with him, a wife and kids, and what that transition's been like. It's something fans sometimes forget. These guys are people first, footballers second. And trying to settle in a new country, in a new system, with a young family in tow, can't be easy. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The rumor mill in Scottish football has gone into overdrive this week with whispers that Wilfried Zaha, the ever-dangerous winger, has been announced as the latest signing for Celtic. The Ivory Coast international, known for his electric pace and silky skills on the ball, would bring an immediate jolt to Postecoglou's attacking lineup. Fans are already buzzing at the prospect of seeing Zaha tearing down the wing at Celtic Park, weaving through defenders with that trademark flair which has made him a household name in the Premier League. Sources close to the club claim that talks moved at lightning speed, with Zaha reportedly eager for a fresh challenge after several seasons of ups and downs. The potential signing has stirred speculation across the Scottish Premiership, as supporters and pundits alike ponder how a player of his caliber could tilt the balance in high-stakes encounters. The rumor suggests that Celtic sees Zaha as a marquee signing, someone capable of producing moments of magic in crucial games, whether it's against Rangers in an old firm clash or in European nights that have often proved testing for Scottish clubs. There's already chatter about how Zaha might fit into the tactical setup. Postecoglou, famed for his high-tempo attacking philosophy, could harness Zaha's ability to beat defenders one-on-one, creating space and opportunities for strikers like Kyogo Furuhashi. Social media is ablaze with reactions, from excited Celtic fans imagining the endless highlight reels, to skeptics questioning whether Zaha can replicate his Premier League exploits north of the border. Yet, the general consensus seems to be that even the hint of Zaha joining would send tremors through the league. While the club has yet to release full details, insiders hint that the signing is part of a wider ambition to dominate domestically and make a serious splash in Europe. If the whispers prove true, Celtic might not just be acquiring a player. They could be adding a game-changer capable of rewriting their attacking story. One thing's for certain. The prospect of Wilfried Zaha gracing Celtic Park has set tongues wagging and imaginations running wild. Whether this rumor is cemented in reality or simply fuel for the gossip mill, it's clear that Scottish football is on the brink of a potentially electrifying chapter. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.